the recording, and we will then dive into the first topic of the day. So, already survived the welcome and introduction. We will then move on to having a little bit of policy context. Then we talk about the requirements of the call. We have a little break, and we will then go on to some more technical and practical matters, such as getting started with your electronic call proposal submission. We'll also dive into the financial provisions of the call, and we will go to said questions and answers session towards the end of the session. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is all I have to say at this very stage. So it is already my big pleasure to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is Katarina Neidlova. She will doubtlessly have a much better way of pronouncing her own name than I have. And I'll leave that to you, Katarina. Thank you very much for joining us here, Katarina. You are a team leader for the EYE program in the European Commission's DG Director General at GROW. And we are looking forward to hearing from you as regards the policy context of the call. Katarina, grab that microphone and off you go.
Thank you very much, Gunnar. It's my big pleasure to be able to come here to the info session and present the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs and why actually activity like this is being supported by the Commission. So let's just look at it. Why? I mean, entrepreneurship plays a vital role in economic development by creating new businesses, generating jobs, fostering competition. Entrepreneurs and SMEs are seen as the backbone of the economy, European economy, because they mobilize resources, introduce innovative products and services, and stimulate economic activity. So for all these reasons, the Commission, the SMEs deserve our attention, and that's why Commission has actually initially in 2009 started this program. Okay, now what Erasmus for Young Entrepreneur is, it's an exchange program that helps and provides aspiring entrepreneurs with skills to start and run successfully small business in Europe. During an exchange, which can last between 1 to 6 months, new entrepreneurs gather knowledge and business ideas while working together with an experienced host. The European Commission is partially co-financing the exchange of the new entrepreneurs abroad. Next slide, please. Let's see who can participate in the program. I've already sort of said new and host. As far as region, the program is open to all member states, of course, plus other countries who agree to participate in the program. Here you have a list, no need for me to read. We have extra 4 countries that we offer to all these new entrepreneurs. So we offer to all these entrepreneurs also to travel for an exchange to Canada, Singapore, UK, and USA. In this case, for these destinations outside of Europe, the exchange is limited to 3 months. Important is that the program is open to all sectors, so absolutely no limitation about sector. And the program is also open to entrepreneurs of all ages from 18. We do have entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs in the age of 60, so don't hesitate. Young in the program is about business experience, it's not about age. Next slide, please. Let's dive into a bit more who is considered a new entrepreneur. For the purpose of this program, new entrepreneur is either would-be entrepreneur or newly established entrepreneur who is running or firmly planning to run a company. They have a concrete project, they have a business plan that is showing what the business is or will be about. And again, their business can be in any sector of business activity. On the other hand side, we have host entrepreneurs. For us, host entrepreneur is an experienced entrepreneur running his company for at least 3 years, ideally successful, of course. We also allow that people who are involved directly to managing a company, so their decision on a board bear financial risk to the company, are considered for us host entrepreneurs. So they don't have to be owners, but they still have these powers and are on board level of the SME. On the next slide, we will see the benefits of the program. Clearly, this is a win-win deal for both new and host. Now, while for new entrepreneurs, it is probably a bit easier to understand what are the benefits. First of all, they are being co-financed by us. They get on-the-job training in a host company abroad. They develop their entrepreneurial skills. They gain new business knowledge, and they gain experience how to manage and start their company. For a host entrepreneur, it might be a bit more difficult to understand. Can you please next page? We can see that from our feedback, when we ask host entrepreneurs why do they participate in this program, they very often tell us we get fresh perspective and ideas and fresh skills because we have been running our company for number of years and we didn't have time to stop. So this is really extremely important for us. The other group of host entrepreneurs tells us we would like to expand our business. We would like to go abroad. And this brings us market opportunities and new market knowledge. So it's very important for us. Host entrepreneurs also tell us that they are also looking for networking opportunities and potential long-term business partnerships. So these are the impacts we hear from the entrepreneurs participating in the program. On the next slide, we can see who are the other actors in the program. Another actor who is actually helping us to implement the program on the local level are the intermediary organization. And this call is actually looking to renew the network of intermediary organizations who will be implementing the program on the local level. Currently, we have over 150 organizations in all over 30 countries. What are the general tasks of those organizations? They promote the program, they recruit the entrepreneurs, they help them with matching, they pay the contribution to the new entrepreneurs, and they support entrepreneurs during the exchange. They also collect their feedback and help us to understand what is the impact and what can be improved. We also benefit from a support office. The program benefits from a support office, which actually offers day-to-day management to the program. It is acting as a help desk to entrepreneurs and intermediary organizations. They help them to apply if there is any technical issue and things like that. They also do promote the program on a European level. Next slide, please. Let's dive into how the program actually works. It's a very simple concept with 5 steps. Let's go into the first one, which is online application. On the next slide, you'll see what actually online application what is needed for online application. There is no paperwork, there are no deadlines. So anybody who is willing to apply can go on our web page anytime and apply online. For new entrepreneurs, we request a business plan, we request CV, and we request motivation. We need to understand why the person is willing to participate. Business plan doesn't have to be a fully fledged document that would be needed to ask a bank for money, but it needs to have a basic information. which will clearly show that the person has been thinking about starting a business, if it's a would-be entrepreneur, that he has thought about all the small things that are necessary, where he will open the company, who will be his competitors, where he gets the money to start a company, if he will need any collaborators. So a basic document that will convince us that the new entrepreneur is really willing to start a company rather than anything else. Host entrepreneurs, on the other hand side, need to give us their motivation. We want to understand why they want to participate in the program, and CV to be able to confirm that indeed they own a company. This documents, when the application form is filled in, documents attached, the entrepreneurs also choose their intermediary organization that will be actually helping them throughout the process of matching with a counterpart and helping them during their stay abroad. So once they submit this application, the application is being checked by the intermediary organization and eventually approved. Here comes the second step, which is matching. So the moment the application is approved, the entrepreneurs get access to our database with vast number of other entrepreneurs available. For new entrepreneurs, it will be the host entrepreneurs available. For host entrepreneurs, it will be the new entrepreneurs. Now, entrepreneurs can search on the basis of keyword search, specifications given by the other entrepreneurs. They can also ask the intermediary organization to help them to search for their ideal match. The system also does offer the best matches on the basis of criteria that the entrepreneurs have filled in their application. So there are different ways how to find an ideal match for an entrepreneur. Last but not least, we also see recently that we have entrepreneurs who are actually coming together to the program, and so they basically already know that they would like to be matched together in advance. What is important to mention here, we don't support exchanges between two entrepreneurs that know each other, that have previous business relations. But if a new entrepreneur met a host on a fair, it was very relevant. The host is very relevant for this planning business activity. This is fine, but previous business exchange, collaboration, being a supplier will not be supported by our program. On the next page, we can already see what happens then. So if two entrepreneurs think it would be a good match for them, the phase of contracting and preparing a commitment, basically a list, a plan of activities that will happen during the exchange can start. The negotiations also on the duration, how long the exchange can last, and on the content and objective will take place. Important to have on your mind, this is not a traineeship. The new entrepreneur is not coming to the host to work for him, but this is peer-to-peer learning on the same level, collaboration of two entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs do prepare this commitment, as I mentioned, which will describe the objective, duration, and content. This agreement is being verified by the intermediary organizations. Once this is done and approved, the entrepreneurs do sign an agreement. New entrepreneur receives pre-departure training, and off he can go for his exchange. This is the next step, which is stay abroad. As mentioned, the duration is between 1 to 6 months, depending on the objective of the exchange and plan activities. In case of non-European destinations, which I mentioned before, the 4 countries, Singapore, US, Canada, UK, the exchange can last maximum 3 months. On the exchange, entrepreneurs work together on-the-job, peer-to-peer learning. If needed be, there is on-site support to new and host entrepreneur during the exchange. We also do ask for some reporting of both of the entrepreneurs to understand and be sure that the exchange is going well, that there are no issues, and of course to report any issues should they appear. We also, of course, in order to promote the program, ask entrepreneurs to write their success story, because it's very much very interesting for new participants and also for other people to see what has been achieved during this exchange. During the exchange, the new entrepreneur is receiving financial support monthly from his intermediary organization. The next step is feedback and payment. At the end of the exchange, we ask both entrepreneurs for their feedback. New entrepreneur is giving us feedback straight. Once the feedback is submitted, he receives the final payment allocation from us. A host entrepreneur is also asked for feedback questionnaire, and at the end, if the host entrepreneur is willing to participate again and sees the added value in hosting another entrepreneur, he can be reinserted to the catalog and continue to host new host. For new entrepreneur, unfortunately, he can participate in the program only once. This has been the journey, the 5-step program, the 5-step of exchanges, of the process of the exchange. On the next page, we can see the allocations, the contribution from the European Commission to the new entrepreneur. I have mentioned that we co-finance them. These are monthly allocations according to a country of exchange. So if we have a French entrepreneur who goes for exchange to Austria, he will be entitled to 1,000 euro per month stay. So in this case, the maximum he can receive from us is 6,000 euro. I would like to also mention that entrepreneurs with disabilities are entitled to the maximum allowance, which is 1,200 euros per month. Next page, please. Let's also talk about the key achievements of the program so far. I have mentioned the program has started in 2009. So far, we have managed to arrange almost 15,000 exchanges, which actually means involving almost 30,000 entrepreneurs all over Europe and beyond. So we can claim that the program is a proven concept. It works. We have received over 39,000 applications to the program from all over 40 countries. And we can also proudly say that over 50% of new entrepreneurs to the program are women. If we look at the satisfaction, according to the feedback questionnaire, 97% of our alumni consider the program or the exchange as success, and they would also recommend it. So this is unprecedented number of satisfaction, and we are very happy about it. Now, we also should have a look at the impact of the program, and we see from the feedback that 30% of participants who participated without having a company claim that they have either started a company or plan to start a company within the next 12 months. Again, this is an incredible number, which shows the power of the program. We also see that 25% of host entrepreneurs actually plan to set a joint venture with the new entrepreneur. Next page, please. What are then the EYE achievements? We can clearly say that EYE can also address unemployment. EYE is delivering tangible entrepreneurship education. It's offering, on the other hand, also practical support to existing SMEs. It does strengthen by its cross-border or cross-national point. It does strengthen single market connections. It does reinforce the entrepreneurial attitudes, creates new businesses, encourages resilient companies, business development and innovation, and last but not least, also contributes to green and digital transformation, because there is a transfer of innovative ideas and innovation. Next page, please. Let's see where you can go or get more information. I mean, there will be a lot of information given during this info session, but I also invite you to check our website and, of course, our social media and the call as such. Thank you very much. And with this, I hand over back to Gunnar. And of course, I stay available for any question that can appear and come to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Katarina, for giving us the first overview of this exchange program, which supports not only entrepreneurship and small businesses, but also builds on the importance of SMEs in the overall European economic fabric. And it certainly recognizes, as you've told us, the importance of collaboration, of peer learning, and of course of international business development, in particular for new entrepreneurs. But those guys obviously need a business plan that flies, or an idea at least that flies. If they have that, it's a relatively simple application process for entrepreneurs, and its success hinges very much on the intermediary organizations who are in charge of facilitating the match between new and host entrepreneurs, and of course, who are in many ways the oil in the machine. The overall aim remains to create added value for both new and host entrepreneurs, we're happy to see. And we're particularly delighted that over the last few years, this program has been a huge success. With the present call for proposals, we're aiming to build on that success. And we're now moving on to the next part of this particular info day, of this particular topic of the info day, where two new colleagues, well, not new, two different colleagues, are going to speak about the call requirements. So those two are going to tell you all about the call itself, about the requirements, about the timeline, about key provisions, and of course, about how to play. I'm delighted to welcome my colleagues Ralf Distelhorst and Artur Benediktowicz, whose name I have probably made a pig's breakfast of. Apologies, Artur. Ralf, Artur, over to you for the call provisions.
Thank you very much, Gunnar, for the awesome pronunciation, for setting the scene so nicely. Katarzyna, thank you very much for having us introduced into the Erasmus for Entrepreneur program, what it is all about, the benefits it entails, and the steps that entrepreneurs need to go through in order to be part of the game. Now, after all that we have heard, you probably are wondering why you should not be part of this game, correct? That's a big pity that I can't see you raising your hands or hearing your voices. That is true. It remains my pure assumption, and that's why I would like to move now together with Artur. Thanks for joining, Artur. Into diving a bit deeper into the call itself. What we intend to do is to refer a little bit to explain the call objectives as such, building on the objectives of the program Erasmus for Entrepreneurs. Then we will highlight a couple of provisions that we believe are central for you to know and to present here in a seminar. And in the end, the core question that you all have, you might have read the call or not yet sufficiently in depth, how to apply. This should help you, this should guide you understanding the essential steps that you have to take. Next, please. So here, let's go to the call objectives. We have a general one and then specific objectives, including the outcome, what we want to get out of this call. Next one, please. The general objective is, I was already mentioned in the introductory words, we are looking for strengthening the network of intermediate organizations. Intermediate organizations. That is our jargon, our slang. This is the people we call. That is your organizations like business support organizations that are rooted at local and regional level and that have business support to entrepreneurs, SMEs in their DNA. We select those as consortia, and the intention is, under this very call for proposals, to select international teams that are ready to work together, to act as local eye contact points, as we call them, because they're so-called antennas, contact points at regional level all over Europe, to do two things: to recruit and to match new entrepreneurs to host entrepreneurs. You see the acronyms that we use. New entrepreneurs is NE, and host entrepreneur, so the one with the experience, we've heard it already from Katarzyna, is the HE. You will see these abbreviations throughout the slides. I'll try to pronounce it correctly every time I come across it. So this is the essence of this call. It is not intended here to recruit entrepreneurs themselves. What we want is the intermediaries, the people who would like to bring the entrepreneurs together. From a sheer volume point of view, we expect a maximum of 15 projects to be selected and contracted, but it's a bit unpredictable. It can be a little bit less. It could be potentially also a little bit more, depending on what you as an organization choose to apply. I will come to that in a moment. And altogether, it would probably result in about 100, 110, maybe 90 organizations to receive a grant implementing these projects. Next, please. So what are the specific objectives? Well, the specific objectives, of course, are those that are linked to making the program work and being worth participating for the entrepreneurs. So what we expect our local agents to do is essentially 5 things. You provide on-the-job training for new entrepreneurs with established host entrepreneurs, and in doing so, you facilitate a successful startup, a development of their business ideas. You contribute to a consolidation. That is the essence of what this on-the-job training is about. And you or your organization can be the brokers, basically bringing the two together. You contribute also to fostering the sharing of experience and information between the entrepreneurs on the obstacles and the challenges of starting a business and of further developing it. If your DNA includes the business support services, then you know what the obstacles for successful entrepreneurs are, or you're ready to explore and to overcome those that are new. And this is exactly why we want organizations from the region on the ground to do the job. A third point is something that is very much related to being open, going out of the usual zone of operations, and that is linked to enhancing the market access and to identify the potential partners for new and established entrepreneurs in other participating countries. I would like to underline that, in fact, how the program works is that, based on the concept of international, transnational consortia, we observe that most of the exchanges that are organized in the program they actually happen not only in the teams that I have signed up to cooperate together, so the consortium, meaning the grant, but they go beyond. So in fact, it's also our intended goal that you work beyond the partnership that you have set up under a specific call, and you liaise and you connect with all the other intermediate organizations that at the same time implement Erasmus for Entrepreneurs, no matter under which call or under which project. You're all in one big boat. And the essence and the asset of this is that you tap into potential of entrepreneurs in every corner of Europe. And that's what we want. We want you to enhance market access in the sense that you recruit, that you identify and recruit the best possible matches in order to give the best possible outcome to such an exchange. You also support the networking between entrepreneurs from different participating countries by building on knowledge and experience. The exchange itself, and we have heard it for the HE, for the host entrepreneur, there's no monetary, there's no remuneration, while the new entrepreneur gets a financial allowance. So the exchange in itself is a learning experience for both sides. But it is more than learning, obviously, because, well, bringing these people together, having a common plan for activity, you contribute to fostering the creation of sustainable, digital, and more resilient businesses. That's exactly what Europe needs. It's not an option today anymore. It's a condition per se in order to be successful in your business activities. So that's the 5 main activities, the 5 main objectives to which you contribute in a role of an intermediate organization. Next slide, please. So what is the expected outcome? In fact, we want to further develop the network of you as an organization, but above all, the new entrepreneurs and the host entrepreneurs. So in fact, such a call serves Europe in broadening and deepening the cooperation between the entrepreneurs and you as intermediaries. And that is why you are so essential in that, because we don't want to leave them alone. We want them to be guided. We want them to be helped and to obtain a first-class service. You enable new entrepreneurs to work alongside and to learn from host entrepreneurs. That's the sort of mentoring that we intend to offer to new entrepreneurs. And so you facilitate the matching between these two entrepreneurs across borders exactly in order to obtain this outcome. That is the core job of any intermediate organization. And again, I underline that, as it is very difficult to do that on your own, there is the obligation to team up in an international consortium, because only with a partnership approach can you succeed. Supporting the creation of new businesses is obviously one of the core expected outcomes of this program, because the target group is in fact split in 2. It is those entrepreneurs that are thinking about setting up their business, but it's also those that actually have set it up already and are eager to consolidate it. So creation of new businesses, or as a follow-up, joint ventures or spin-off companies, and further cross-border cooperation is considered an essential outcome of this call and of the activity of your activities. Then obviously linked to that is also the aim to have international activities and innovation potential of the host entrepreneurs promoted and enhanced whenever possible. And in fact, after many, many years of having followed the work of intermediate organizations, I am not aware of a single case where a host entrepreneur would not have benefited in this respect from an exchange. Now, in terms of how you apply or how you structure a work, how you would structure your commitment to the program, you can choose, in fact. The job of an IO to be done is the same for everybody. But you can choose if you want maybe to team up as part of a, let's say, small project, or if you say, okay, I read the call and I believe I have the capacity to match a decent number of entrepreneurs, and then you might wish to opt for a large project. Large means in the sense of this call that we will be able to allocate a maximum grant amount of 1.5 million euros. And for this budget, we expect 350 exchanges, 350 entrepreneurs to be matched. That can be new entrepreneurs, that can also be host entrepreneurs, but a total of 350 is a minimum. You will find this explained in the call text a bit more detailed. But if we stick to that, you could simply take away from here, there's a possibility to get engaged in a smaller project. And if you have the capacity to do so, then a larger project option is available for you as well. So large projects, minimum 350, small projects, a minimum of 175 entrepreneurs are expected to be matched. Next one. What we are doing, and you see the link clearly to the objectives, is that we define two different target groups. One is compulsory. We want that you include in your applications an indicative number of entrepreneurs who propose sustainable, clean, and digital business models. This is very important. It is absolutely coherent with our EU agenda. Also in view of making Europe less dependent on other parts of the world. So this is an essential target group of this call. However, we also encourage that among those, you pay particular attention to promoting female entrepreneurship. It remains a very strong objective of the European Commission to promote the drive, the entrepreneurial drive of women in both, in the category of new entrepreneurs and host entrepreneurs. If I may say, on the statistical side, we are not doing bad in this sense. Actually quite good, because we have a little higher share of female new entrepreneurs compared to male. But we are not yet there for host entrepreneurs. We do not ask you to formulate a specific target as regards this group of entrepreneurs, but you may wish to think in which way you can contribute to raising the proportion of female entrepreneurs, in particular also host entrepreneurs, where we have a bit of a discrepancy between women and men. And then there's a second part, target groups that we consider optional. And here we propose above all one, which is to focus on entrepreneurs from so-called underrepresented countries. The countries are not listed here. You will find them in the call. Go there and have a look. You might be surprised. Some of them are EU member states. The majority are not EU member states. It is, in this sense, quite interesting to read through the list of these countries, because it might actually have a bigger influence on with whom you would wish to team up in a consortium, with whom you believe who could contribute to to give such an additional touch to your proposal. And then you need to tell us, obviously, in everything that you prepare in your proposal, why you believe it is a good idea, and you need to tell us the convincing story. Then we have new entrepreneurs from the SMP participating countries. It was mentioned before already, that can benefit from going to some destinations at global level. Global means, in this case, including the United Kingdom, because it's not part of the single market program. For those, a bit specific rules apply in both terms. In terms of duration, because those people going to Canada, Singapore, United Kingdom, or the US can only go for up to 3 months. At least, the financial allowance will only be paid up to 3 months. And specific rules also are established how to match these people. In that sense, there's one very, very important document I would like to quote, will be referred to still later, but it is the quality manual. It is essential that you read through it, and we have taken the freedom to do a little revision for the publication of this call. The rules that govern, the specific rules that govern the matching to non-SMP countries are explained in this document, as it is the whole way of how to implement an EYE project. Next slide, please. So when we look now at the call provisions, we will split this in different parts. Still refer to a couple of things in the selection process, and then Arthur will take over. Here we deal with admissibility, eligibility, exclusion, selection, and award criteria. Right. I wonder what all this is. So let's have a look. Next slide. In fact, the selection process is split in several steps, and it's essential to look at each of them and that you understand each of them after one after the other in order to be aware of the complexity of the selection. Next one, please. Who can participate? Well, first of all, I said it earlier already, this call is not for entrepreneurs to participate. What we want is legal entities that are established in one of the eligible countries, business support organizations that have a clear legal status, either in the European Union member states or in other countries that are either the European Economic Area, from the European Economic Area, or countries associated to the Single Market Program by association agreements that they signed together with, like with the European Commission. There is a non-exhaustive list of type of organizations available in the section 6 of the call. That's the section eligibility or eligible participants. So in fact, we're tapping here into a pool of countries from where you need to come from. If you apply, for instance, from China, you are not eligible simply. If you apply from Algeria, you are not eligible. But if you apply from Bosnia-Herzegovina or from Iceland, you are a priori as an entity eligible to participate. Next slide, please. There is a very important part. We exclude you if you fall into a certain category with which we have no increased interest of entering into contractual relationship. In that sense, you must confirm at the application stage that you're not in one of the situations specified in the very specific section 7, financial and operational capacity, and therein in exclusion. And that means, in fact, basically that either you are bankrupt. If you're bankrupt, you're guilty of grave professional misconduct, you've committed fraud, you are subject to you committed corruption or similar cases, that would exclude you from participation. Details are available in the Articles 138 and 43 of the EU financial regulations. This is in this presentation. They are linked. You find them as well in the call itself. So I think we can move on and go to one step that is very important, or one slide that is very important, because it covers two essential aspects before signing any grant. We will have a look at the so-called selection criteria, which are that we check whether you have the financial capacity to implement a project throughout its lifetime. And that entails basically that you need to have stable and sufficient resources. This step is pursued, and this is verified, not during the evaluation as such. It is done when your proposal is evaluated favorably, and we propose a grant preparation phase. So we inform you, and we open the preparation to sign the grant, which entails a lot of work, but it's a precondition, obviously, to start the project. There are rules for legal entity validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment. I strongly advise you to read through that, because the earlier and the more you're informed about it, again, the better you understand what the whole process of selection entails, and you can prepare already. If you can prepare, you will be prepared the moment that the agency might contact you saying that you were among the best, so we would like to conclude a grant agreement with you. Part of that, not in financial terms, but part of a grant agreement is obviously also the assessment, and that's part of the evaluation as such, of your know-how, the qualifications, and the resources you bring into this your proposal. That's what we call the operational capacity. And there is a very, very strong focus on that in our award criteria, which we call the quality award criterion. In fact, we look at the competence and the experience of the applicants and their project teams. We're not asking you to submit CVs. I'll also come to that later, but we want to know from you why you and how, and that's it. Basically, you need to tell us, you need to underpin that why you, as a business support service organization, having this business support as core activity, why we should choose you. Next one. Here you see a quick overview of the award criteria. We basically categorize it in whether what the proposal tells us is actually relevant. You know, we're not asking you here to submit us a proposal about nutrition or about automobiles. Yeah, this call is not about that. The specific this objectives of this call is hopefully very clear. That falls under relevance. And then the two quality criteria are about the project design and the implementation. And then, as I said earlier, the project team and the cooperation arrangements that you propose us. Read those award criteria, please, very carefully, because, and not to forget, the last one is about the impact that your proposal will create. So read them very, very thoroughly, because in fact they can be a very good guidance for you to write your proposal. We usually define two different thresholds in the evaluation. The first one is that each of the criteria that you see here comes with a minimum score, with a minimum pass score, and obviously there is a maximum score. The total is 100, and under each of the criterion you must at least reach 50%. If under relevance, for instance, you have 14, there's no way that your proposal will be evaluated favorably, even if the others you have excellent. Now, again, each of them minimum 50%, but in total, you must actually reach 70%. So just having the pass mark will not be enough. Your proposal must have the minimum quality of having 70 points to be among the best. Next one, please. And here are the successive stages of the process. We elaborated a little bit on the eligibility, the exclusion, the selection, and just before the award criterion. So let's recap it again. The very, very first step is admissibility. The moment you submit, it seems to be pretty obvious that you must meet the submission deadline, which is the 21st of April 2026, 5 p.m. Central European Brussels time. I underline it because afterwards the submission link is closed, and so make sure that your work is saved properly and submitted on time before the submission closes. The proposal must also be complete, meaning that all the documents that we ask must be included. This follows in the next slides. And obviously, there is no such thing anymore as sending us a proposal by paper. The electronic submission as specified in the call document has to be used. So please get familiar with that in due time. Then coming back to eligibility, please look carefully about the consortium composition. Again, I mentioned there are two types of projects, sizes you can opt for. You can apply only for one out of the two. And with that, the consortium composition, the requirements changes slightly. But there are important aspects, especially as far as the experience in eye of applicants is concerned. Read it carefully and you will understand why. Please be also aware of the following. Apply only under one proposal under this call. Make sure that in your organization, there is not another department crafting on another proposal that you are not aware of. Might sound strange. We had those cases in the past. So if your organization is identified as having submitted a proposal, as being part of a consortium proposal submitted, you will be excluded from both proposals. And what's important for you to know as well, you could create, if you multiply your applications, you could create actually quite some collateral damage, because we expect from each proposal where a multiple applicant will be excluded, we expect that these proposals need still to comply with the full consortium composition requirements. If, due to the fact that you have applied more than once and you're excluded, if this renders another proposal not having actually the minimum number of partners covered, then with your multiple application, you have actually killed a proposal, another one which could have been maybe a very good one. So keep that in mind, please. Look at the geographical criteria. And again, as I said earlier, the experience, new partners versus experienced partners is very important in relation to which type of projects you choose. Then declaration, then the exclusion criteria. I think we have discussed this. There was a specific slide. It's clear, I think. Selection with the financial and operational capacity. Don't need to elaborate further on that, I believe. And the award criteria were also explained. One thing to be added is that we will establish at the end of the evaluation a ranking. So if you are part of the proposals that are above the 70% in total and have reached everywhere at least a pass mark in all the criteria, then you will be somewhere on the list of this ranking. And we might ask you we might invite you for the grant preparation. We might not and put your proposal on a reserve list, because if we don't have enough budget to finance all the proposals that are evaluated, let's say with 70% or more, then some of them could land on a reserve list if we believe that they have that there might be a chance to potentially still grant in case additional budget, for instance, in case additional budget is made available. So that is it in a nutshell. And I hope that process has been clear. And we're very happy to take further questions later on. And I would suggest, Arthur, if I'm not mistaken, that's your turn now. Can we move to the next?
Yes, thank you very much, Ralph.
Yes,
So I will walk
there you go. I will
Yes.
mute, and thank you very much for your attention up to here.
Yes, thank you very much. So I will walk you through some practicalities of the implementation. We'll start with the deliverables, so the mandatory services or outputs that must be delivered by the consortium. As you can see on the slide, first are the meetings. So I expect the consortia to attend 3 networking meetings in spring and in autumn. Also, also optionally, we will invite consortia for the midterm meeting to discuss the progress in the middle of implementation. So please plan all your expenses of these meetings in your budgets, and please make sure that the participants, the members of the consortia, will be ready to come in person, which we consider very important. And the next slide, please, are the reports. They are not very complicated in this cycle of I would expect you to send us 2 progress reports about the progress in the project implementation, about the obstacles, about the effort consumption, and also at the very end, we'd like you to submit us the financial report, which will be linked with the payment. And here it will be the financial report only at the end. It won't be requested in the middle of the implementation. So can I ask for the next slide, which is about the other deliverables? We cluster them in the three types. First are the success stories. So the best success stories, the best examples of the matches you would like to share with others. There will be 2 batches of 10 in total that should be delivered in month 12 and month 12 with 24. Also, we would like to ask you to produce a sort of strategy or a vision. How would you like to cooperate with other actors of the SME support sphere? What we have in mind here is the European Enterprise Europe network organizations or clusters. So we believe that the cooperation between your organizations and these partners would help in the successful implementation of I, and we would like you to propose such strategy in month 3 of the implementation. Finally, as a milestone, so not as a document you would need to share with us, but as a milestone, we'd like to ask you to produce a communication dissemination plan. And please follow the guidance in the quality manual. Ralph was referring to quality manual, but also at the very beginning, there's a very extensive section on how this communication dissemination strategy should look like. Please try to look at it. Please try to address it in your strategy. But of course, when you will be drafting your proposals, there is also specific work package 2 regarding the promotion. But here, the strategy would need to really expand what are your visions for the cooperation. And now we are moving to financial aspects, to the financial provisions. If we can move to slide 47, general funding provisions. So as always in Erasmus, also this time there will be 2 different ceilings for the EU reimbursement. 75% goes for management costs, and 100% of the EU contribution will go for support to new entrepreneurs. So this support to new entrepreneurs, it falls under category of the financial support to third parties. When you will be budgeting your proposals, please remember that the maximum single any support should not go beyond 7,200 euro, which corresponds to the 6-month stay in the most expensive destination. But of course, when you will be planning this, please adapt it to your ideas where the new entrepreneurs would go, to which countries, and then please have a look to quality manual where there is a information about what rates are available in which countries, and then please try to adapt it to calculate it correctly. Now there is a novelty in the Erasmus, novelty in the sense of the threshold we put for the part of the budget which must go for any support. It's 55% of the grant. So in practical terms, please ensure that 55% of the EU grant that you will put in the budget will be earmarked for any support. And please make sure that this is really clear both from the detailed budget table and also it's clear in part A. Now, if we can move to specific rules for FSTP. So what I was just mentioning, any support, first of all, any support is mandatory. It must be there. This is the core of the project to help the new entrepreneurs when they are brought with some financial support. As I just mentioned, this specific lump sums, specific allowances are set in the specific table, which you can find in the attachment to quality manual. And again, we really encourage you to go across the quality manual, especially those who would apply for the first time. Please go and try to really understand all the concept, how the program works. But here, definitely, please have a look on these tables to calculate your any support. Now, the logic should be normally in Erasmus that each organization who sends the new entrepreneur abroad pays on the account of this new entrepreneur any support. But exemptions are possible, deviations are possible. So if you decide for some reasons that one of the partners would do such payments on behalf of another, most commonly it happens with the coordinators, then it is okay. Then in such case, this any support must be budgeted in the budget of the organizations doing the payment. So not of the organizations who will match this very entrepreneur, but of the organizations who will do the payment. And we would also like you to present some justification in the proposal why this option was chosen. So for what reasons specific IO cannot make the transfers to the ENIS account. Now on the payments within the project. So we will in this time we will do as usually the pre-financing, of course, but this time will be the 70% of the total grant will be transferred to you once the grant agreement is signed and once the accession forms, so the signatures of the partners are also finalized, and there won't be any interim payment. So when planning your activities, please bear in mind that the single transfer of EU money is the one from the advance payment from the pre-financing. And then obviously at the end of the project, once the project finishes, you will be invited to submit your final report with the financial statement, and then the balance will be paid. And now how to apply. So of course, before you are in the project, you must first go through the procedure of selection, which was explained by Ralph, but before that, you of course must apply. So it's quite technical process with some. I would say it's a bit complex, but it's of course manageable, and we have many successful organizations who go through this easily. But some logic must be followed, and of course, first of all, the all participants must create an EU login user account, and then they have to register. The organization is the participant register. For that purpose, please use the 9-digit participant identification code called PIC for the drafting and for submission. This is extremely important, this PIC number. So it stays with the organization. It is really attached to this organization and must remain. Then once it is done, you will be able to submit the proposal. And the full proposal must be composed of 3 parts. And here is a bit complexity also because of our project. So part A is the one which you will complete online. So we'll simply type all the information directly in the portal, and it includes administrative information about the applicant and the as I said, the data there is coded online. Then is part B, which is must be put into the specific template that you can download, and then you of course have to upload it. And finally, we have the annexes. Now, these annexes, although they are not part of the main core, they are not core part of the proposal, they're extremely important and they are mandatory. We highlight it because it's really impossible, in fact, for us to evaluate the proposal in Erasmus for young entrepreneurs, but also in other courses without the specific annexes. So what I would like to highlight here is the Annex 5. This Annex 5 is dedicated only for Erasmus for young entrepreneurs projects, but it's absolutely necessary because based on this, we would be able to evaluate your methodology, your concept, and your ideas for the project. Obviously, specific annex, budgetary annexes, detailed budgets, which are split between the partners, which provides detailed information about the planned budget. So please make sure really at the end when you will be finalizing your proposals that that indeed all these annexes are in place. And next slide, please, the one with application form part B. So this is the core methodological template, as just I mentioned. But for the purpose of this call, we also proposed, we invented the Annex 5, which provides specific informations. And yeah, please really try to fill both, I would suggest, on the same time. So please cross-check information into both documents. And for that purpose, when you go to the call, in section 14, you will see the detailed instructions. We will trying to really to explain step by step, section by section, what must be filled in which specific box and why. And this would be really extremely important that these informations there are coherent and they are not contradictory. And when experts will start evaluating them, they will see that both parts are working together. And can I have the next slide, please? Application form, part B. This is just the slide which visualizes a bit what just was said. So starting from the left, you see how the front page of the application form part B looks like. Then is Annex 5, and then you can see also the screenshot of these instructions I just have mentioned from the call text. And finally, the questions again here, please remember that we have split a bit the flows, how the questions can be addressed. So all those that are concerning the text of the call, the I itself, the methodological issue, etc. So all of which are about the contents should be addressed to the email address, which you can see at the top of the slide. But whatever concerns the registration of your organization or whatever concerns any technical issues regarding data you're encoding, any bugs in the system, etc., this should go via directly via the contract form to the IT help desk. Once you're registered, you can easily find this opportunity and send your questions. So it would be all from my side, from our team and all people involved in this. We wish you, of course, good luck in the applications. Well, I may say, please try not to delay your preparation process, not to postpone it to the last moment. Some technical issues sometimes appear, so please try to send it and submit it in advance. And of course, we are happy to take your questions also to this part. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Artur and Ralph. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the QR code again for the questions for the Slido page where you can submit your questions. Ralph, Artur, if there is one conclusion I would take from your presentation, it's read that call. All the relevant information is in there. Read it very carefully to make sure that your application fits the needs described in the call, because it is a competitive process and there will be quite a thorough evaluation. Only the best ones will get through. And we are hoping to have about 10 to 15 consortia with about 100 organizations. If you get in, it's a great networking opportunity to tap into entrepreneurial potential all over Europe. And it's a great opportunity to help foster the creation of sustainable, digital, and resilient businesses by supporting learning and networking, and by bringing innovation, fresh and new ideas into traditional businesses. You have the opportunity to choose whether to engage in a smaller or a larger project. So this makes the call quite inclusive in many ways. And you also have a clear understanding now of the legal and formal conditions and requirements that apply regardless of whether you go for a smaller or a larger project. So please keep in mind, read that call, and of course, you can also always go back to the information that we are providing you with today, because of course, the presentations that we're showing to you today will be published on our website. They will be disseminated through social media, and they will be sent around by email as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've survived with us for the best part of 80 minutes now, and I've given you a lot to digest, so this is a good moment to have a little break, have a cup of tea, or do whatever else you would like to do in the next 5 minutes or so. We will be back here with the next presentation that will focus on some of the very practical aspects of submitting an application in 5 minutes at 10:25, that is, I'm sorry. So please be back sharp then. Until then, we will have a break. Thank you so much for your attention so far, and see you in 5. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it is time to slowly welcome you back. Give you another half minute or so of period of grace to settle down back on your desk chairs and put your headphones back on. But then we will very soon move on with the next presentation. So let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome back and welcome to the second part of this info session on the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs call for proposals. We've done the policy background, we've done the call provisions, and we've talked a lot about some of the technical provisions and procedures of how to apply. We will now, first of all, dive into something very basic, and that is some of the technical matters of how to register an organization. After that, we will be talking about the financial provisions of this call in great detail. But first of all, let's talk about registration of organization. And for that, I'm very pleased to welcome Ellen Sidzimov, who is a legal and financial advisor at the Research Executive Agency's Central Validation Service. And if that long title doesn't mean much to you, these are the people who actually validate newly registered organizations. So nobody better placed than Ellen. Ellen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gunnar, and good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be today with you. You actually in today's session, our colleagues Ralph and Arthur already mentioned the importance of obtaining a participant identification code or a PIC number, and the rules that we follow for the validation. But now, as Gunnar said, we are going to go in a little bit more details in that. In the next slide, you see the outline of today's presentation. I'm going to tell you briefly who we are at the REA Central Validation Service. We are going to go into a bit more details on how to register a PIC number and why do you need that. Then we are briefly going to introduce the legal validation and LEAR appointment processes, the importance of the correct channel of communication, and in the last slide, it's the main guidance documents that you will need. Now we can already start with introducing you to the REA Central Validation Service. We have a broad portfolio of responsibilities, but amongst the main ones are the verification of the legal existence and legal status of the entities. So under what legal form, whether the entity is currently existing. We also are responsible for the appointment of the legal entity appointed representatives, or the so-called LEARs. Any legal changes that might occur related to your entity are also being validated by us. We assess universal takeovers, so these are different types of mergers between entities. We are also responsible for encoding the bank account requests. We prepare financial capacity assessment and perform ownership control assessments, which are for very specific programs, and some ex post status verifications, such as the SME and middle capitalization status checks. But for today's presentation, an important part is the registering of a PIC. Let's go to the next slide and see a screenshot from the Funding and Tenders portal. You can see that here either you can search for a PIC number that already exists for your organization. It might be in a declared on an already valid status, or you can start the registration of your organization from scratch. And for the sake of today's presentation, we are going to look at the second scenario. So in case you haven't registered a PIC number to obtain a PIC number yet, you'll see how this happens. We can continue, and you will see step-by-step wizard in the next slide that in this step-by-step wizard, you introduce the your organization's data, legal name, VAT number, then further details and additional legal information linked to your status. A special highlight here on the tab that it's called authorized users. This we encourage you to encode other person apart from the person who registered the PIC number at that moment. These authorized users will ensure business continuity because between the moment of the PIC registration and later, several months later, when the PIC might needs to be validated, the person who registers the PIC might not be available for some reason. And if they are authorized user who have access to the PIC number, they can take the next step. So if you want to register an authorized user, please do so. At the end of the wizard, the registration is completed, you submit it, and you obtain a new participant identification code or a PIC in a declared status. We can continue now, and I would like to tell you that at this stage, at the submission stage, when you need to submit your project proposals, the declared status of your PIC it's sufficient. You don't need to have your PIC in a valid status. We can go to the next slide now. Here is the validation process overview. So we first saw in the red arrow how to register the organization, and now you have obtained your PIC, you have submitted your project proposal, it has been positively evaluated. After several months comes the moment where the operational unit, our colleagues are sending a request to validate your PIC number, and then starts the validation process. You can see the arrows one after the other for the validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment, but these are processes that happen simultaneously. Let's see first a few details regarding the validation. The information that you registered when you that you encoded when you registered to obtain a PIC number, it's being verified by us in the REA Central Validation Service. And as I said, this is necessary only before the signature of a grant agreement or a contract. So at the submission stage, a declared status is sufficient, and then later on, just before the signature of your grant agreement, your PIC needs to be in a valid status. The advantage of this process is that it's performed only once and can be reused in the future. So if you have already a valid PIC, you might not need to validate it again, or if you get your PIC validated now, you won't need to go through the same procedure in the future. As Ralph already mentioned, the validation, LEAR appointment, financial capacity assessment, it's done in accordance with these rules on legal entity validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment for EU grants and tenders. There is a hyperlink to the rules. Please, whatever questions you might need linked to these processes, it's very likely that you find the answer in this comprehensive document. It's really useful before you if you have any queries. Now we can continue with the next slide, in which I introduce you to the potential documents to the documents you might expect to be requested linked to the legal validation process. For private entity, these are the VAT extract or a proof of exemption and a registration extract, which are not older than a year. So we need to recent documents to be sure that your entity is currently existing. Then for public bodies, we would request the law, decree, or decision for creation. For international organization, this is the treaty of creation. And for non-profit organizations, we often request the statutes, because that's where the non-for-profit distribution is reflected. Now we can continue with the next in line, the LEAR appointment, but as I already said, it happens in parallel to the legal validation. It's on the next slide, we can see that LEAR stands for Legal Entity Appointed Representative, and that is this role, it's mandatory. So you need to appoint a LEAR once the validation has started. And who is the LEAR? That's a person who notifies the EU for any changes of legal data or the status of your entity. They submit legal and financial documents when they are required. And the LIR also manages access rights of persons in the organizations, but not at the project level. So other roles you'll see now. The LIR also can nominate account administrators. Again, a highlight here. We advise that the LIR appoints account administrators for business continuity in case some actions need to be undertaken and LIR it's not available for some reason. The account administrators can undertake these actions because the LIR has appointed them for that. They also appoint individuals authorized to sign contracts and grant agreements and their amendments. These are the legal signatories or the L sign. And to sign financial statements, these are financial signatories or the F signs. We can continue now. And the documents you can expect to be requested when you need to appoint the LIR. This is the LIR appointment letter, which is duly signed by both the legal representative and the LIR. The legal representative and the LIR could also be the same person, but this is later on in the process. You'll need to find out about this. So the LIR appointment letter, official proof of identity. This is the ID card or the passport for both the legal representative and the LIR, and a proof of empowerment of the legal representative. So we need to know that the person who appoints the LIR has the power to do that. Like if this is the president, for example, of the company, we need to ensure that this is the correct person. And you need to keep the originals of the LIR appointment letter at your premises. Now we can continue with the next slide. As I mentioned, communication, the correct communication channel, it's important. This on the screenshot, you see an email notification that you receive in your email box, but you cannot reply via email to this notification. You need to go to the participant register in the funding and tenders portal, login, and from the messaging function there, you can reply to the messages. Please, for any questions related to validation, LIR appointment for financial capacity assessment, use the messaging functionality because your message reaches the person who is working on your case, and like that we ensure the quickest possible solution if you have any questions or problems. And now we are getting towards the end of my presentation. I would like to look with you at two possible scenarios in case you have lost access to a PIC number. So you have found a PIC number of your organization that it's already registered. In the first case scenario, the PIC number you have found, it's in a declared status, so it hasn't been validated yet. But you don't have access to this PIC number. You might have used it to submit your proposal, and later on for the validation, you don't have access to submit the documents that are requested. In this case, you need to register a new PIC number and inform us or the colleagues in the operational unit so we can merge the two PIC numbers and keep only the newly created one to which you have access. Then we are going to initiate the validation for this newly created PIC. In the second case scenario, you might have lost the access to a valid PIC. For example, the LIR, it's not available anymore within the organization and the LIR hasn't appointed any account administrators. So in this case, the PIC is already valid. So you do not need to register a new PIC, but you need to simply appoint a new LIR. And there is a special procedure called LIR recovery procedure, and it happens again with a step-by-step wizard. And with that, my presentations come to its end. In the last slide, you will see the very useful hyperlinks to documents that will answer any questions related to the processes. As I mentioned, the rules for legal entity validations, and some online manuals and help desk that you can use in case of need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ellen. And of course, those links will be available in the slide deck that will will be sharing with you after the end of all of these presentations. And then thank you again, because the registration of an organization and obtaining a PIC is absolutely essential for submitting a proposal. So please don't leave that to the last minute. And as far as the appointment of legal representatives goes, this is also something that is ideally done relatively quickly and early on in the process. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now move on to another hugely important topic. We've heard all about the policy background and about the technical requirements to submit. We've heard about the call conditions. What we have not heard about so far is the financial provisions of the call. These are extremely important. They are as important as the technical requirements, because we need to make sure that your project is set up in a sound financial way as well. And here to tell you how to do this are our colleagues Alan Schonjans and Anna Batra from the financial department of COSME-EYE. Alain and Anna, all over to you. Tell us what we need to know about financial provisions.
Thanks a lot, Gunnar. I am a financial officer in operational finance sector C102, and with my colleague we'll go through first the few financial documents which need to be provided and submitted, and then we'll go more into details through the different cost category you will be able to budget. Next slide, please. So what about the main financial documents for the submission? There are in fact two main documents. The first one is a summarized budget table that will be that will need to be filled manually online in the application form part A. And then another one, which is also very important, maybe one of the most important, it is the detailed budget table in the annex to the application form part B. It is a template that we'll have to fill in and then to upload in an allowed format, generally a PDF. So the financial data in both tables needs to match. If not, the summarized budget will prevail. Next slide, please. So what about this detailed budget template? This template will be provided in an Excel sheet. This Excel sheet will contain 5 sub-sheets, and 3 or only of them will need to be submitted. So there will be an instruction subsheet where you will have all the instructions given in order to facilitate the encoding of the data. You will have then a start subsheet where you will have to encode the basic data for each beneficiary. So you will have to encode the participant short name, the participant PIC, but you will have also to introduce the different work packages required for this call. You will see that you will be able to access different buttons with macros linked that will allow you to update continuously, permanently the sheet. So what are the 3 main sheets that you will have to submit? Next slide, please. The first one is the detailed budget template. This is really the most important one, I would say, because in this sheet you will have to go into a really detailed breakdown of all the items per work package and per cost categories. So it is important here to be as much detailed as possible. You will have to budget all the eligible costs only. You will see that in this sheet there are white cells and blue cells. Most of the white cells need to be encoded. If costs have to be encoded, of course, you should only encode eligible cost. And you will have also blue cells. Those blue cells will be block cells with calculation generally, with formulas, which will calculate some totals according to the figures encoded. We are talking here about a budget, so it's always important to keep in mind that we are talking about estimates. Of course, the figures that you will declare at the budget they should never be the same as the one that will be declared at the final reporting stage. This is normally quite evident, but it is always good to be reminded about this. The second table, next slide, please. The second table is the consolidated table per participant. This table will show the different cost headings per work package. In fact, this table will be automatically calculated by the system according to the figures you would have introduced in the previous table. But it will give a consolidated situation per participant. And then last but not least, there is a third subsheet with the consolidated table per project. Sorry, that is still on the previous, thank you. The consolidated table per project, it will show you the cost per work package and per participant for the entire project. This sheet will need to be manually filled by the coordinator itself. And it is important that the figures encoded there should match to the one from the detailed budget table that I just told you, and also from the other table under the part A. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now let's go more into details regarding the different cost categories. From the side of the project cost, we will talk about the personnel cost, the subcontracting cost, the purchase costs. Here under purchase costs, you will find three subcategories. The first, the travel, accommodation, and subsistence cost. The second one, which will be the equipment cost, and the last one, the other goods, works, and services, the cost for other goods, works, and services category. Finally, we will talk a bit also about the indirect cost. From the side of the project income, we will come back to the EU contribution, also a bit explain what are revenues and contribution by third party, and how you should also declare your own resources. Next slide, please. So what about first the personnel cost? This cost category is an important one. There are different types of person who can be working on the action. The first most common category is the category about employees. So it means people who are working for the beneficiary under an employment contract or equivalent, and those people are assigned to the action itself. So what is the base of the calculation of those costs? The eligible costs are based on the salary, on the social security contribution, or the taxes linked, and other costs which are linked to the remuneration. So if arise from national law or the employment contract, plus also all those costs need of course to be actually incurred. What is important is that at the gap stage, so the first step in the project, you will need to declare monthly rates. We consider that monthly rates are the most easy to declare. And it is important already to know that at the final reporting step, when you will have to declare your actual cost, you will be asked there not to declare monthly rate, but daily rate. So how can you calculate daily rates? Daily rates, it is quite simple, but it's always good to remind that normally you have to consider the annual personnel costs, so the one that I've just talked about, and you have to divide them by 215 days. So we consider that for a project, you can not work more than 215 productive days or day equivalents. This is a base that we consider for the calculation and for the calculation of the personnel cost, meaning that you cannot declare more than 250 days per year. Days of 8 hours, meaning 1,720 hours per year. So those daily rates at the final reporting stage will have to be, of course, multiplied by the number of day equivalents worked on the actions, rounded to the nearest half day. This is quite important also. We often have issues with this. It's always important to round the productive days to the nearest half day. And this will give you the respective personnel cost for each person. Next slide, please. Then we have another cost category, which is the natural persons under a direct contract and the second persons. So natural person under direct contract, so meaning persons who don't have an employment contract can also declare cost. So we are talking mainly about civil persons, freelance or experts. And then on the other hand, we have also seconded persons who are persons who are put at the disposal of the beneficiary by a third party against payment. So, for example, an example, temporary transfer of an employee from a third party to the beneficiary. It's important to keep in mind that for those two categories, you have to respect a few conditions. So it means that those persons have to work under similar conditions as employee, working directly under employees' contracts. So that those people should be supervised by the same person. They should be present at the office. Well, this should be a bit seen a bit differently since the COVID, with of course the possibility to telework. The cost shouldn't be significantly different from those for personnel performing the similar task, and the works performed by those persons should still belong to the beneficiary. The cost declared should amount solely to remuneration and taxation costs for the person in question. Next slide, please. Then we have a fourth personnel cost category, which is the SME owners and natural person without salary. So an SME owner can declare eligible costs if he can prove that he is owner or co-owner of the company, and if he is also working on the action and not receiving a salary. The company must be considered and must be declared as an SME in the portal. So this is also the case for natural person beneficiaries, which are natural person not receiving a salary. For this person, you can find in the Annex 2A of the grant agreement the way to calculate the cost. It is based on an unit cost. So this unit cost is always updated according to the cost of life. And so there is a fixed amount that you will find in the Annex 2A, but this fixed amount has to be corrected by a coefficient. And this coefficient, you can also access to a table with the coefficients which are related, which are different from one country to another country, depending also, again, depending on the cost of life in the respective countries. So you will be able to access these documents through the Annex 2A and also through this presentation here, where the links are effectively working. Next slide, please. So here is an example, just a print screen from the detailed budget table regarding the personnel cost. As you can see, this is one part regarding the work package 1. You can see that you have the different cost subcategories: employees, natural person under direct contract and second persons, SME owners and natural person beneficiaries without salary. So as I told you, the white cells will have to be filled in. So you have to put for each person the name of the person, the type of rate. For the gap, it will be monthly rate. For the final reporting stage, it will be a daily rate. What is the rate? How many months, how many days will be work on the action? The blue cell will automatically calculate the respective totals. And you will have also to fill in some columns. For example, do this work package have other links with, this person, so we work also on other work packages? What is the description, what is the role and the activities of the respective person? What are their responsibilities? We don't ask you to make a text of 20 lines, and try anyway to be short, but at least do not forget to give us a minimum of details for each person. Next slide, please. For the personnel costs, you will also be asked in the technical description of the projects in the Annex 5, so which is the additional information to Part B. You will have to fill in a few tables, mainly on the point 2.3, where you will have to again describe the positions and the different information for the respective people working on the action, like what are the relevant skills, their experience, the list of tasks, what will be the allocation to the project according to a percentage of the full-time equivalent. And also under the point 5 of the Part B, you will have to declare what are the different planned efforts in person days and in person months. Next slide, please. Next main cost category that you will be able to budget, it is the subcontracting cost category. So subcontracted action tasks are mainly tasks which are necessary for the action itself and which normally cannot be implemented directly by the beneficiary itself. So the beneficiary can ask a subcontractor to create a contract with a subcontractor in order to deliver those tasks. It is important that to make a distinction between subcontracting cost and personal cost, because in the case of subcontracting, there is no direct supervision by the beneficiary, as opposed, for example, in-house consultant under personal cost category. It is also important to mention that no core task of the coordinator can be subcontracted, because so tasks like coordination and project management, those tasks can only be declared. The cost for those tasks can only be declared by the coordinator and cannot be subcontracted. Important also to mention for this call specifically, only subcontracting can only be declared for work package 2 and only for the promotion of the program, so not for the recruitment of the new entrepreneurs. Optionally, it can also be used for the work package 5. It's important that the subcontracting is also in parallel described in Annex 1. It should be also budgeted in the Annex 2. The Annex 2 is the annex which is a table with which declares the estimated budget of the grant. Also, but this is really the case in this type of call, if the subcontracting costs are higher than 30% of the total eligible cost declared, they must be justified with details in the application. Also to keep in mind that those costs can be declared only as actual cost incurred. So we are not talking here about unit cost as for other cost category. And you have always to use the best value for money or the lowest price. There should also be no conflict of interest. So please do not ask your best friend, for example, to be your subcontractor. Next slide, please. So just to tell you also that, as I mentioned, so this is, for example, a print screen example for the subcontracting in the detailed budget table. So again, you have white cells that you have to fill in and columns that you have for which you have to give more description about the respective subcontract. Also, in parallel, as I said, you in the Annex 1, you will have also to, under the subcontracting item, will have to give as much as detail about the respective subcontracting. This is my last slide. I will now give the floor to my colleague Anna Batra to continue about the other cost category. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As explained by Alan, I will now continue with the second part of the presentation, and we will look into purchase costs. So purchase costs are contracts that are made to get work, services, or goods that are necessary to carry out the action, like, for example, purchase of equipment, consumables, or organization of meetings. So in this case, the purchase contracts, they do not cover the implementation of the action as opposed to subcontracting costs, which were explained by Alan, but the purchase itself is necessary to carry out the action. They do not fall under any other cost category, and they do not have to be specifically described or indicated in Annex 1. There are 3 subcategories, and in the next slide we will go through them. So the first one, very important one, is travel accommodation subsistence. So the costs are eligible if they are budgeted for the personnel working on the action. They must be, of course, justified, necessary under the action, planned in the description of the action, supported by relevant documents, and also they have to be made following the usual practices of the beneficiary. So for the purpose of the grant, you cannot change your normal travel practices. This is normally verified by the auditors, for example. The cost for travel accommodation and subsistence must be budgeted in the detailed budget as unit costs. The unit costs or values are fixed in the Commission decision from 2021-35. However, by now they have been this decision has been amended, and for this call particularly, you will have to use the values from 2024, so the latest available ones. All the values are also explained or listed in Annex 2A, which is available to you already now. You do not have to have the grant agreement signed. You can have a look. The link is functioning and available in the presentation once it will be accessible to you. So for the unit costs, how you make the calculations and estimations. In principle, you will have to use flight and rail calculator, which is created by the Commission for this purpose to be able to determine the distance between the departure and arrival points, for example, between Madrid to Brussels. The distance is calculated one way. However, the unit cost, which you will have to see as per corresponding distance band in these tables in Annex 2, are for a return trip. And also we work here with units. So one return journey is 1 unit. Normally it's for 1 person. For accommodation and subsistence rates, these rates are fixed per each country. Again, you cannot come up with your own estimations. You have to use the prefix rates, and this can be also found in either the decision or the Annex 2A. And 1 unit for accommodation is 1 night. For subsistence, it works a bit differently. It is 1 unit for 24 hours of a day, so 1 day. Normally, you are still able to have or budget actual costs, but this is only in very specific travel instances which are not covered by the decision. And by now, almost all the types of travel have been covered by the EC decision, so this we expect will be very rare. Next slide. In the detailed budget table, you will see therefore 2 kind of fields: actual cost fields, and then costs for unit cost. So in 95-98% of the travels, you will have to budget unit costs. And you see you will have to encode the amount per unit and number of units. It is very important that you tell us information about what kind of meeting or travel it is. So, for example, first consortium meeting, or please be specific, because we will have to be able to see whether the cost is eligible or not. Please note that in description column, the information is mandatory to provide it. So please here be specific, provide us the arrival, departure points, means of transport, number of persons traveling, number of nights, for example. So this will allow us to really check quickly the inputs which you provided, and in that case, we will not have additional questions maybe when we check your proposals. And for actual cost, you will still have to provide also description, how you estimated the cost for actual cost. Next slide, please. Second subcategory of purchase cost is equipment. These costs for equipment, infrastructure, and assets are eligible. However, they must be declared as depreciation costs based on costs actually incurred. They must be written off in accordance with international accounting standards and as per beneficiaries' usual accounting practices. Again, in case there is an audit, this all is checked. So you have to be very careful what you list as an equipment. Only the portion of the costs which correspond to the rate of actual use for the action during the action duration can be taken into account. So again, subcontracting costs are very limited. Normally, costs for renting or leasing equipment are also eligible, but they must not exceed the depreciation cost of similar equipment, and also they must not include any financing fees. And this will be in different cell in the detailed budget table. Just to remind you that ordinary office equipment such as computers, softwares, Microsoft Office, or printers, for example, they are considered as indirect costs and they cannot be declared as equipment costs. Next slide, please. Yes, this is how you will see it in detailed cost reporting, detailed budget table. So first line is for purchase, and the second one is for rental. And again, you will have to provide very specific details how you calculate the depreciation of the table. So please be careful, and please always fill in the description just to give us more information about what kind of equipment is needed. Next slide, please. The last category of purchase costs are other goods, works, and services. So these costs are eligible if they are calculated based on cost actually incurred. They must be always direct costs, and you have to apply procurement procedures such as best value for money or lowest price. Please make sure that these items are listed in the correct cost category, and detailed information is provided in the description column. And as you can see, these are, for example, catering, meeting room rent, leaflets, consumables, but also in case you will have to provide certificate on financial statement or financial guarantees, they have to be listed in this cost category C3. Next slide, please. This is just a reminder for you of the rules. What is the difference again between subcontractors and purchase costs? Because sometimes the beneficiaries have a problem to decide whether it should be more subcontracting or purchases. But as we explained, subcontracting always concerns the implementation of action tasks, which are listed in Annex 1. Which, on the other hand, the purchases are more like supporting costs for the organization of meetings and really this kind of more simple supporting costs which are needed for the action. Next slide, please. So very important cost category for you, financial support to third parties. In principle, this is the financial assistance paid to the new entrepreneurs while they stay with the host entrepreneur in the different country. In principle, FSTP must be a part of the project cost, and they have to be included under the specific cost heading. The call defines that the FSTP cost will be reimbursed 100%. And there is another requirement which says that at least 55% of the maximum grant amount per project will have to be committed as FSTP. In the detailed budget table, you will see a very simple line to be filled in. I will explain you more about the unit cost on the next slide. However, please know that you will have to use the fields for unit costs. But at the time of when you create your budgets, we of course foresee that you will use estimates. So it's not an issue. You will have to provide estimated average monthly financial support, and the unit cost which you can use is estimated number of units, which is the person months, for example, the number of months of stays abroad. And please put also a very simple description. Next slide, please. The cost eligibility rules for the financial support to third parties. So they they have to be budgeted as unit cost. That's why we ask you to use the unit cost field. So the unit cost is defined per third party, new entrepreneur, and host country. As my colleagues in their previous presentation have already explained, that the duration is 1 to 6 months maximum, and the maximum per third party is defined per host country, and maximum 6 months of stay. The calculation is based on monthly unit cost calculated per country. Again, you will be able to find them in Annex 2A, and it is the amount per month while staying in this country for a new entrepreneur. You have also linked the commission decision, but the same amounts or values can be found also in the quality manual. Again, I would like to remind you that, as Artur explained, that FSTP costs must be budgeted in the budget of the partner who will do the real bank transfers to the new entrepreneurs. Next slide, please. Yes, in relation to this cost category, of course, you will have to fill in the Annex 5 the specific table, which is called needs and analyzes specific objectives, and provide in more detail what kind of exchanges are you planning to do. Next slide. And now we are coming to the indirect costs. These are the running and operating costs or overheads. Here, as explained, these are, for example, computers, stationery, rent of the office, or utilities. They are not specifically or directly linked to the action implementation and cannot be directly attributed to it. And they must represent, of course, a fair portion of the overall overheads and comply with the eligibility conditions. Good news is that there is no breakdown of this cost required. It is a 7% flat rate applied to eligible cost, direct cost categories, and it will be automatically calculated by the table. You just have to make sure that the 7% is correctly encoded in case it's missing, but normally I think it should be encoded already in the template when you kind of download it. And just for you to know that indirect costs can never be covered also by the direct cost in the same grant, otherwise this would be double funding. Next slide, please. So the last part of the table is the project income. If you make it until here, you're almost ready with your detailed budget. So the project income will be, it always has to be in balance, of course, with the costs. The big part of your project income will be covered by the EU contribution or the grant you will receive. Here you can see that there are two funding rates, which is 100% FSTP and 75% for other cost categories. The maximum grant amount is calculated automatically by the table. You will just have to input the requested grant amount. In case, of course, the grant amount will not cover 100% of your project income. That's why there are the possibilities. You can have revenues and contributions by third parties, and more concretely, income generated by the action, or financial contributions received from third parties. So this is not the same thing as the financial contributions you pay to the new entrepreneurs. This is in case you expect that you will receive some third-party financial contribution. And the remaining amount will be automatically calculated as own contribution or own resources of the beneficiary. Last slide, next slide. Again, just to remind you about the payment arrangements, however, it has been already explained. If your proposal is selected, you will go through grant agreement preparation. After the signature of the grant agreement, you will receive pre-financing payment, which is 70% of the maximum grant amount, to allow you to start working on the action. You will not need to request any payment. This will be done automatically after the signature of the grant agreement. And just to remind you that pre-financing always remains the property of the EU until the final payment. So this is how it should be also treated. There will be no interim payments, and in the end, payment of the balance, which is based on the final and technical financial report approval. And here it can be either an additional payment or even recovery in case of, for example, underspending. All payments will be made to the bank account of the coordinator, and the obligation of the coordinator is to distribute these payments received from the granting authority to the other beneficiaries immediately without any unjustified delay. Next slide, please. Here we just added all the useful links which you may find useful when you prepare your document. Just to let you know that here you can directly download the template for detailed budget table and all the relevant documents with guidance that might help you. Next slide. And this is the final slide from our presentation. Thank you very much for your attention and wish you good luck with your proposals.
Thank you so much, Alan and Anna. I think we don't really need to summarize anything here. I'm sure there are a number of questions, so please have a look at the Slido QR code here, scan it, and submit any financial questions that you might have. Just a quick reminder here, maybe on the basis of what we've just heard, please make sure that the financial information you provide across the different forms in the application form is coherent. We can't really deal with competing different financial information. It makes your proposal look less convincing. Please make also sure that the estimates you provide in the budget are reasonable, but keep in mind that there are a budget. And above all, please make sure that you complete the detailed budget table carefully. Take your time to do that. Take your time to look at that thing before even starting to fill it in, because it is a complex and complicated table. It needs time. It needs to be completed correctly. So please don't leave that until the last 5 minutes before the submission deadline. Then you won't be able to submit a complete budget. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your interest and for your perseverance so far. We have reached a point where we can spend some more time on questions and answers, and we've seen that quite a few questions have already come in. So we will be extending this session a little bit. We'll be going beyond the 15 minutes that we have left here, and we'll go until maybe maximum 12 o'clock. If we still can't finish all questions that have been put in by that time, we will obviously provide you the answers in writing afterwards. So let me start with the first question here. It is the first one you see on screen here, and it is all about cycles. So can an intermediary organization with cycle 13 and cycle 15 in force be a partner in this new one? They're not clear about this. The cycle 13 they're involved in ends in January 27, and the next one will start on 1st of January. And can we extend this question maybe so that I can see the full question on screen? If not, we hope that somebody in the room in the back office is able to see it, will be able to answer the question. So I imagine this is one for Ralph and colleagues to answer. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Gunnar. And first of all, thank you very much to the back office team managing this Slido. And thank you very much for all the people connected. You show that you have really an interest in that. We're a little bit flooded with questions, but that's all the better we can extend the session. So my answer to this question is the following. While we do not answer on very individual cases, right? We answer usually at the level of like rules and principles. The answer to this question is if you implement only one project in EYE from the 1st of February 2027 onwards, and that is to current Erasmus for Entrepreneurs implementation mode, simply the so-called cycle 15, then you are eligible to apply under this call. So the answer is in fact here, yes, and I would redirect you to the call itself. So please note that you will find this well explained on page 21 in the call. It is the section 6 eligibility. And you will find it under the table which indicates the large or the small projects. And I quote, an organization that currently implements EYE projects is only allowed to apply if after 1st of February 27 there would be an overlap with only one other EYE project, which is simply tweaking it in different words. that's the answer to this. So we can move to the next.
Thanks very much, Ralph, but please stay with me because next question is also about Cycle 13. It is in fact from an organisation that is in Cycle 13 at the moment, who's found it a bit complicated to join a future partnership. So in the event that they are not involved in any partnership in the upcoming call, would it be possible for them to retain their host entrepreneurs for future calls, or would they lose them?
That's a very, very good question. To the whole audience out there, you sense from that probably that this is an organization having a certain experience and having managed already a project towards the end, and then trying to be in another project or having been engaged in a follow-up project. In fact, at the end of a project, the entrepreneurs that were not matched or that have kind of applied with one specific organization will remain with that organization only in case this organization continues implementing EYE after the end of that project, meaning in another project, either a follow-up or one that is working in parallel, etc. So if that's not the case, then the answer is no. Then your entrepreneurs will be redistributed. They will be reassigned, so to say, in our Erasmus for Entrepreneurs IT tool, so that they can be matched potentially immediately the day after your activity in EYE ends.
Thank you very much, Ralph, again. Next question is from a potential new applicant. Their issue is that the call requests the consortium leader must have some experience in EYE. Does that mean they have to find a leader who's already involved in a running or a past project? And does the consortium leader have to have an active status as intermediary organization? This is all about getting new organizations in, I suppose.
That is actually, yeah, it's a bit, I think it's a little bit more, actually, 2 or 3 questions in this one. That's why it's an excellent question. So thank you for that, Tatiana. I would like to answer first with referring to the section of the call where you will find the information. It's again, point 6, eligibility. And you will see it in the box where we distinguish large and small projects. If you read that carefully, you will see that we have for both types of projects slightly different requirements for the composition, for the years of experience that we require. In fact, the consortium leader is requested to have EYE experience in either of the 2 cases, whether large or small project. In that sense, and I've seen there are a couple of other questions going in that direction as well. In that sense, it is true that at the level of the consortium leader, we are not open to completely new organizations that have never implemented EYE. Yes, that's a deliberate choice. But for instance, we do not require that this consortium leader is currently implementing an EYE project as a leader. So it is a bit complex, I agree, but it's there for good reason, because we want some critical mass. We want some really kind of very top speed quality projects, especially under the large project category. People that really know in depth how to do the job and to have and kind of to perform well from day one. But even in that, the call clearly says that more than half of the consortium must have at least 4 years of experience in EYE, which does not say that everybody needs to have that. So even there, we have an opening for new organizations to be part of it. And the part for small projects, we clearly say that no specific number of years of experience in EYE for other consortium members are stipulated. So here is your entry gate. If you are part of a convincing proposal, you can contribute here to implementing Erasmus as a brand new organization, never having implemented EYE in whatever country you come from. I hope that responded entirely to the parts of the question and hopefully even a little bit beyond.
Thanks. It sounds good to me. Maybe we can take up the last question that was on screen here just now because it's related. Are there any geographical restrictions to the role of coordinator? In this case, can it be somebody from Ukraine? But do you have any other geographic considerations as regards the appointment of the coordinator?
That's as well a very good question. Usually we don't, and the call does not stipulate any from a legalistic point of view. So the quick answer to that question is, if you're in Ukraine, yes, you can apply as a consortium coordinator. However, I would like to put a little bit, kind of a small caveat here on the table. We've been following the work of intermediary organizations in Ukraine quite closely over the last couple of years. We had also, in terms of entrepreneurs that we were able, or that the organizations out there were able to match, very, very encouraging results. But we are also aware of the fact that the country, unfortunately, is still at war, and it comes with very serious restrictions or conditions when it comes to financial management. So you need to take that into consideration if you would want to create a consortium where you would want to lead an international team with partners outside Ukraine. Take one example, for instance. According to current rules, he will not be allowed actually to make transfers in euro from the consortium lead to beneficiaries and to partners in your consortium. That, however, is actually that, I mean, you would need to find a way around that, because in fact, what we do, if you were the lead, and it was clearly presented by our financial colleagues, the lead is our sole contact point for transferring the pre-financing or any payment that comes from the agency. So be aware of that and become familiar very, very much in detail with what it entails for you in terms of financial management, and then make your risk assessment whether you can live up to that or not.
Thank you, Ralph. And now for the next two questions, I think somebody wanted Katarina, so I'll happily oblige. These are about eligibility as entrepreneurs. So Katarina, will you tell us whether single person companies, so a company owned and run by one single person, is eligible? And can you maybe also tell us at the same time whether startups from candidate countries are eligible to participate in the exchange program? So this is about participation in the exchange program rather than about participation in this call.
Yes, indeed, Gunnar. Yes, and I will be very short. Yes and yes.
Brilliant. Clear answer, short answer. That's what we like. Next question is about finding possible consortium partners. Are there any ways to support potential applicants in finding possible consortium partners, or are there indeed ways to find a consortium that is in the way of being set up, whom organizations could join as a partner? Now, I don't know who wants to take that question. First come, first served, I'd say.
I'll happily take that one. Thanks, Gunnar. Now, there are two ways that can help you. The first one is when you go to the Funding and Tenders portal, there is a call page dedicated to this call. Go to the very bottom and you will see a section, Partner Search. Here, organizations that are interested in teaming up can simply fill out a little form, put a little narrative, what they are about, and what they can offer. So this serves as an entry point to identifying some people, some organizations that have an interest in teaming up. The second one is, and I apologize for that we have two call pages, but there is a call page on the website of the COSME-EYE agency. The links are circulated here. You should be aware, probably otherwise there was no way to register for this event. So if you go to the website of the call on the agency site, you'll scroll down and you see a section which is called Documents. I think it's section 6. Under this section, you have a list of all organizations that ever, in the whole history of this program, running since 2009, have participated, meaning have implemented at least one EYE project. Go through it. It's quite a document. Go through it, and you see that there are multiple organizations mentioned several times, some of them many times, others are there once or twice only. It gives you an indication on how many organizations from which countries have most of the experience, etc. This can help you. It does not tell you necessarily, or you might not be able necessarily to identify whether they are right now implementing bodies or not, but it gives you certainly a good insight to then identify their contact details, because that we don't provide for reasons of data protection, but this can be a starting point for you as well. So these are the two things that I see where you can find information.
Okay, thank you so much. We've done a fair amount of questions without stumbling across a financial one, but that luxury is now over. So Alan and/or Anna, could you please tell us whether staff costs should be calculated as monthly rates, daily rates, or any other?
Yes, Gunnar. As I mentioned during the presentation, regarding the grant agreement preparation, the gap, we are asking to budget the personnel cost based on the monthly rates only. But I know that it can indeed create some confusion, but at the final reporting stage, at that time, we will ask the beneficiary to use the daily rate in order to declare the personal cost. So there is indeed a distinction, which is important, between the gap stage and the final reporting stage.
So first monthly, then daily. Thank you so much.
Yes, exactly.
The next question is a little bit more operational. Again, it's about eligibility criteria. This is from an organization who was an intermediary organization in cycles 10 and 11. They would like to know whether, if they were to participate again, they would need to be readmitted as an IO.
I can try to answer this one if Ralph
allows.
Any organization that is willing to implement this program from 1st January 27 until end 28 needs to apply to this call.
I have nothing to add.
That's clear. So maybe we can go on with the next question here, which is not too dissimilar. So question here is whether the call is aimed at creating consortia, only at approving the intermediary organization that will later on become part of consortium. Katarina, so fast at it, go on again.
Yes. So we don't give grants to single organizations. So who can apply to this call is only a consortium composed of a number of organizations who get a grant from us.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's also quite clear. The next question we have on screen here is about the possible space for newcomers. An organization would like to join the consortium for an upcoming term, but there are total newcomers. I think we've established that there is room for them under the rules that Ralph has explained, that described in the call. So let's move on to the next question. Indeed, the subsequent question, because this one is also already answered. There is space for newcomers. The only thing is that you can't be a coordinator. So we are back with our financial colleagues on this one. The question here is whether we can have a step-to-step demo on how to proceed with the detailed budget table and how the partner sheets can be added. This is for a consortium that has 10 partners. Now, it would go beyond the time that we have available now to give you a live step-by-step demonstration. There are clear instructions on how to work with the detailed budget table in the first 2 sheets of that thing. But I see, Anna, you're nodding on screen here, so maybe you might want to add 1 or 2 points to what I've just said.
Yes, just to complement that, there is no existing step-by-step demo for what we know. For how to fill in the detailed budget table, you must follow the instructions which are described in the template itself. And we acknowledge, of course, the table is not so easy to use because it contains a lot of macros and is very complicated table, but unfortunately with this we cannot really help you.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. The next question is about IOs again. So this one, I think, Katarina, Ralph, it is for you again. This participant would like to know whether it is possible for an intermediary organization based in one country to manage and finance an entrepreneur residing in another country. For example, when the entrepreneur has no IO in their own country.
Thank you for this question. Very good one. Indeed, if you go on our webpage, you'll see a list of intermediary organizations, and you will notice that not all eligible countries for this program have an IO. This doesn't mean that nationals of that country cannot participate in the program. So indeed, if there is no IO in a country, the entrepreneurs from these countries can participate. While they are applying, they choose an IO in a different country. We would suggest country which is close, and of course with a language they can communicate, because they will need to communicate. In this case, the IO in different country indeed will be eligible to pay the contribution to a new entrepreneur from another country.
Thank you. Could you maybe, since we're talking about different countries, already also explain a little bit in a little bit more detail how we manage changes involving countries involving countries that are not part of the single market program? So would you, for example, need a specific work package to deal with those, or are there any other specific rules or procedures for recruiting host entrepreneurs in countries that are not in the SMP?
Can I reply for this, Gunnar?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, because this is it might be a little bit confusing, but just to clarify. So work package 5, the new work package, which was created in this call and in one of the previous calls, is only to be applied when you intend to match HEs, so host entrepreneurs in non-SMP countries, only in this very case. But if you intend to send your NEs to countries, to non-SMP countries, but not necessarily to HEs that will be delivered by your consortium, then there is no need to create it. So only whenever you intend to have operations in the non-SMP countries, yes, then you have to anticipate work package 5. No, not all partners must be active there. You may choose those partners who would like to specify in the non-SMP countries.
Thank you so much, Artur. Next question on screen is about Ukrainian organizations that would like to be lead partners. We've answered that question. It's technically possible, but there are substantial practical obstacles which you would have to deal with. Okay, Artur, the next question is about Work Package 5 again, so I'll go back to you for that one. Is it possible to cover Work Package 5 with only one partner and to explicitly target only one country outside the SMP with this work package?
Yeah, it's possible. We never had this case, but it's possible. Ideally, we would like to see how the applicant explains that in the methodology.
Thank you very much.
Gunnar, maybe like to add a little
Ralph,
point
go ahead.
here. Gunnar, a little point here is maybe for everyone who thinks in that direction, just always be aware that you team up with others. Should you ever have a change of, let's say, political direction in the one organization that you have included in your consortium, and that one wants to back out, for instance, for whatever reason, you would be left in theory without that patch, without that kind of qualification in your consortium. So be aware if you have one very, very specific, let's say, commitment from one partner, and you can't back it up, there I consider that there would be a little risk in terms of changes in the consortium that you might lose out on that.
Bit of a business continuity issue there then. All right, thank you both. Let's move on to the next question, which is about the percentage of the budget dedicated to financial support to third parties. It has to be 55%, as was said earlier on, and anything below that will not be declared eligible, right? Then let's go on to the next question, which is from a regional development agency represented by Vladimir here. They are suggesting that they're available for potential cooperation. I would say, if that's so, then go to the pages that Ralph indicated earlier on about finding a new partner or a new consortium and put yourselves out there. Okay, as regards co-financing, this is a new question here, which is a little bit financial. Maybe our two financial colleagues can come in on that one. What is considered co-financing from the side of the beneficiaries? Invested hours, or do they have to spend actual cash as well in order to come up with the own resources? Alan, Anna, do you want to say something to that?
Yes, in principle, in your detailed budget, you will have to put all the estimated costs, because if you think about it, that you invest hours, it's more of a kind of in-kind voluntary contribution from your organization, and they will not be considered for co-financing in that case. So you will always have to prove the costs incurred by relevant documentation, such as salary slips and other documentation. So.
Thanks, Anna. So if I might just add for clarification here, essentially everything you put into the project has a price, and that price is what you declare in the budget table and in the cost reporting table. So in that sense, even if you don't make an actual bank transfer, you're still investing financial resources into the project, and that's your co-financing. That's your share of the project, rather. We provide co-financing of that. Ralph, Arthur, maybe Katarina, the next question is again about the process of registering as a host. Will that be a long process? Does it take a long time to get accepted as a host, or is it fast?
Filling in the application doesn't take a long time. Of course, the host entrepreneur has to have CV ready, has to write motivation. The rest of the questions in the questionnaire are ticking boxes. Your interest, when you are available for an exchange, which IO you want to choose, how big is your company. So it's not a long process. And then there are specific deadlines for the IO to approve or comment on the application. There are somewhere between 7 and 14 days. So in principle, it's not a long process. It's very short. And in fact, it is quite easy to get to the program. What is difficult is to find your ideal match. There you have to be much more, you spend much more time discussing on the objectives that it fits to both entrepreneurs. So getting to the program as such is not difficult.
Thank you so much. I will simply answer the next question because it was in the presentation earlier on. We expect to finance between 10 and 15 projects out of the total budget of that goal. Next question is about
the total budget is 20
Ralph,
million euros, please. 20 million. It's not 13. 20.
Thank you for that as well. Ralph, you were speaking earlier on. Just keep going with the next one here. Maybe can a foundation based in Armenia apply as an IO, and can Armenian new entrepreneurs also, or indeed host organizations, apply for an exchange?
Thank you, Gunnar. I'm very happy to take that. The answer, unfortunately, is no, in a double sense, simply because of the fact that Armenia, unfortunately, has not signed an association agreement with the European Commission to participate in the single market program. That is a state since years. We sincerely regretted that because we had very, very good entrepreneurs from Armenia in the past and also committed organizations, but unfortunately it is not possible.
Thank you. Next question is about projects that might have an existing network who have previously been in IO. Can they use their existing network, their previous experience in their application? I think this is again for Ralph, Arthur, or Katarina.
I think any intermediate organization or any group of legal entities, and that's the most important part, working together in theory can apply. What you need to do is you need to fulfill the requirements on the composition of a consortium as clearly defined in the call, and then tell us a convincing story why you are considering yourself good to implement Erasmus for entrepreneurs.
If I may add on this, if I may just add, if you look at the relevance criteria on the last paragraph, it says, oh no, sorry, not the last one, but in the relevance, you will see that the experts will look at the previous cooperation experiences of the partners. So I don't want to say it can help, but it could matter in the evaluation that you are applying with organizations you have already worked.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's have a question about a specific country right now. On the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs website, there is a list with local organizations, but that list apparently doesn't include Finland. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, thank you for that question. Indeed, Finland is one of the countries that participates in the program, but has no active intermediary organization in the network. As we explained, becoming an IO is a selective process. So there might be different reasons. Maybe somebody applied but was not selected, but we would be very much happy to welcome a Finnish organization in the network.
Thank you, Katarina. Clear call there for applications. Talking about applications, would an associate partner without budget but with a role related to local support for example, promotion and dissemination, be accepted?
When we evaluate proposals, then we look at the cost eligibility to some extent, certainly, but we also look at what each partner chips in with in terms of tasks, commitment, etc. Now, an associated partner has a priori no active role and consequently does not receive any grant. However, if on their own costs, associated partners wish to promote the eye on the ground and help disseminating information, etc., then they're welcome to do so. Only they will not be paid for that. That we must be completely clear of. And there is no limit of adding a number of associated partners. You can put forward 1, 3, 5. It's just be aware there is no remuneration coming for that.
Thank you very much. That's great. Then let's go on to the next question, maybe, which is actually already been dealt with. This is about whether or not we can have a country running organization, a new organization, a new entrepreneur rather, from a different country. The answer to that was yes. We've had that earlier on. Ralph, Katarina, could you maybe provide us with an example of the consortium composition, of an ideal consortium composition? Also taken in the next question maybe, which is how many partners maximum can be part of a consortium, and whether you have any ideal number of consortium partners.
I'm happy to take that, Katarina. We don't have an ideal number of consortium partners, doesn't exist. All depends on your SWOT analysis and on how well you create your team. However, we have a maximum defined, and the maximum defined is clearly written in the call, no more than 10 organizations, 10 beneficiaries, I should say, so project partners or affiliated entities. Again, associated partners not receiving a grant do not count towards that number. And you can, for instance, not have more than 2 from the same country. So we'll not elaborate further on this, just read thoroughly what the call says under the consortium composition section under eligibility, and you should be safe.
Thank you, Ralph. So that answers 2 questions we have on screen here. So we can move on to the next one, which is, I think, also answered already here. This is an organization who doesn't have any experience but would like to join. the question they have is whether they need to register separately to get status of IO, or can they make a joint application? I think we can say that you can join a consortium, apply together with that consortium, and then see where that application takes you. Next question is about the tax treatment of financial support paid to third parties. And for that, I think I would call in the expertise of Alan and Anna again.
I think it depends on the national regulation. No?
If I may, from our point of view, the allowance that is being paid by the European Commission is not a payment, it's not income, it's per diem to compensate for travel and stay abroad. So we don't see it as a taxable income, but indeed, as was mentioned by colleague, by Anna, there are some countries we are aware that they apply tax.
And if I may add on that, in some countries, this taxed allowance is actually repaid at the end of the year. In others, it's the intermediate organizations are requested to actually pay it directly without even transferring it to the new entrepreneurs, paying it directly to the national tax authorities. That's, for instance, the case in Ukraine. So be aware of that, while, as Katka said, we always promote no taxation of the NE's allowances. It does unfortunately happen.
Thank you very much. So please be clear, be certain to check the national regulations there. Next question would like to find all requirements, call requirements, financial provisions, etc. in one document. The best we can do is refer you to the actual call document, as well as documentation provided on the call website. But Ralph, you might have to add something to that.
I don't really, honestly. I think the call has everything. If you remember that the quality manual for intermediate organizations, so we call it our Bible, you know, if that one, you know, you read as well, you have basically all information in one place. Another story is, of course, then the templates, but you find it on the call page.
Great. So I can move on to a slightly more technical question again here, which is about counting the number of years of experience in the eligibility criteria. So when the call refers to a certain number of years of experience, what does that actually mean? If somebody has participated in one cycle that only lasted for 3 years, would they be eligible to lead a small scale project? Katarina, maybe you want to go for that one, or Ralph?
I can take that one.
Arthur?
That is a correct interpretation. We don't look at the number of cycles you did. We know how long they lasted, and so the number of years of experience mean, in fact, 1 year is 12 months. And what is important to say is we calculate the number of years in experience for the start of the projects under this very call. We set as a kind of target date, not now or the publication of the call date. We look at the starting date of the future projects. So if you're right now in your 3rd year of implementing, we would consider you theoretically still eligible actually to be a coordinator. Whether that is wise, that I would need to leave up to your discretion and to your assessment, but that's what the call says.
Thank you. Next question is about whether this call allows individual organizations to apply as an intermediary organization. The answer is no, you have to apply as a consortium. And within that, you can, if your consortium is accepted, become an intermediary organization. But talking about eligibility, we have one question here, which is about South Africa. So is South Africa an eligible country in this call?
No, unfortunately not. The countries, only the countries listed in the call or in my presentations are eligible to participate in this program. There is no association agreement of South Africa to participate in the SMP, in the financial program of the European Commission for these years.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question then. Is there a minimum target on the number of new entrepreneurs or OI, I suppose IO, that is?
That's a very good one. No, there isn't. There is a minimum target stipulated at consortium level. We have talked about that. There's a respectively 350 for large projects or 175 for small projects. But you are free to respond to this requirement in the way that you believe your consortium is able to deliver. In theory, you could have very few number of new entrepreneurs or even host entrepreneurs as a target to be matched by one IO, as long as the others do proportionally more in order to fulfill the requirement, the minimum core requirement per type of project. What is important to say actually here is that the performance will be measured by the agency at the individual intermediary organization level. While we ask you to submit a proposal respecting a minimum target per consortium, when we look at and when we assess the performance of the project, we look at how each individual intermediate organization did individually. That might be very important information for you to take into consideration when shaping your consortium.
Okay, very good. Next question we have is for Katarina. Could you please tell us what defines the ideal duration of an exchange? And could you, once you've done that, also tell us whether special visa requirements are needed to enter EU countries? I suppose that depends on where the exchange entrepreneurs come from. And could you also explain whether those participants who only plan to start a business have an obligation to do so within a specific period of time?
Thank you very much. Very relevant questions. As far as the duration of the exchange, the duration will depend on the content of the exchange. This is when I mentioned that there is a commitment action plan for each exchange. So it's not good idea that the new entrepreneur comes to an IO and says, I want an exchange for 6 months. No, he comes and says, this is my learning project. I would like to learn this. And then on the basis of discussion with the IO, but also with the host, the length of the exchange is defined. There is possibility to either shorten if the plan has been fulfilled earlier or extend, but always maximum 6 months and after agreement of all parties. Second question on the visa. Indeed, this depends on from where the person is coming to EU. As you know, this is not, visas are not EU competencies, so here it's difficult for us. This program makes possible and co-finances stays of entrepreneurs. The visa arrangement is private responsibility of each participant. What we do, we can support the applicant for visa, potential applicant for visa, with a confirmation letter. We confirm that he is part of the program and he is traveling for an exchange, how much he is sponsored by us. And I also would think that this might be a very nice service of the IO, giving this information to new entrepreneurs, saying, okay, for travel from this country to this country, we believe you need this visa, do apply. So this might be one of the services that the IO offers. As far as obligation to start business after the exchange, the aim of the program is to establish new companies, new jobs, increase turnover, but we do not require after the exchange to start a business. Also because we know that starting a business is a process. You don't start immediately. So we are also happy if people do start business in 1, 2, 3, or 5 years. And we believe that this program will help them. But after the exchange, it is not necessary to immediately start a business.
Can I add on
Okay.
that, Gunnar? Still,
Go ahead.
Two
I think we need to be a
thoughts,
little bit brief now, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is quite important. Building on what Katarzyna explained, let's still be aware of this. In Erasmus, the general rule is if you match someone within the SMP countries, it is between 1 and 6 months, indeed. When you match a new entrepreneur to the global destinations, please be aware it's up to 3 months. A minimum is again 1 month, but not more than 3. The second thing is that the program in itself, it's not practiced many times, but the program in itself has quite a level of flexibility. Where if you have an entrepreneur who is not ready to go for 4 or 5 months in one block, no problem. He can fragment, or she can fragment the stay. We call it fragmentation. He can go once, come back after months, go a second time, come back after once, and then do the last 2 months to finish the exchange. But all this together, these periods, they must be done within a period of 12 months. It cannot go beyond 1 full calendar year from the moment of start of the relationship of the exchange. Another point is when we talk about, I think, see it somewhere in another question, but it's linked to this here. When we talk about eligible applicants, we never talk about nationality. Nationality or citizenship are not an important criterion in Erasmus for entrepreneurs, except for one specific case. So it can be that in France there is an Indian citizen living, but fulfills our criteria on residence, so having been living there for a certain while, is eligible to be matched, fulfills the eligibility criteria of a new entrepreneur or of a host entrepreneur, is eligible to be matched in this program. And the last point is we do consider, indeed, as Katarzyna said, there's no obligation to set up a business, but we do consider, in fact, this program as also as a test bed. We do want to create businesses. We do want to create startups through this program. But it can simply be, as a result, the outcome can simply be that you send someone abroad and he just looks at whether he's suitable to pursue an entrepreneurial career.
Okay, thank you very much, both Ralph and Katarina. We have a quick follow-on question here in many ways, as it were. This is about the financial responsibility of the intermediary organization. Do they need to finance any events or any steps out of their own, or do they need to add any sort of financing, or rather their own resources to financing the entrepreneurs?
I'm happy to take that. The call is very clear on that. You have one cost category which is financed up to 100% by the EU. These are the allowances for the new entrepreneurs. All the rest, all the other costs are co-financed with a rate of 75%. So the grant requires that you contribute with own financial means, be it for events, be it for something else, your personnel, staff costs, and all that. In all that, you have a share yourself as part of the grant. Only not for the units, not for the allowance to the entrepreneurs.
All right, thank you very much, Ralph. The next question we have here, and we're, by the way, rapidly moving towards the last questions we will have time to answer here today, but don't worry, all questions will be answered in writing later on. So the next question we have here is about the large and small projects, the distinction on the basis of the number of cases that they deal with. Are the two figures, 175 and 350s, minimum, maximum values or not? And how do you count them? Do they concern only young entrepreneurs, or do they include both the young entrepreneurs and the hosting entrepreneurs?
I may reply to this.
Go ahead.
So yeah, it's the minimums for these two figures are minimum, and no, they consist both. So it's up to consortium to decide what share of HEs or NEs will contribute to reaching at least this 175 and 350 of the entrepreneurs to be matched.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is about whether two organizations from the same country can participate as long as they don't cover the same geographical area. As regards to the number of participants in each consortium, we refer you to the answer we've given earlier on and to the documentation in the call.
In fact, if you read the call thoroughly, there is no indication that two from the same country could not possibly even come from the same geographical area. They can be, in theory, even from the same city. But have this in mind. If you submit a proposal and you have two organizations potentially even competing from the same city, how will you believe experts evaluating your proposal will look at that? They might, I'm not saying they might, look at it not in the most favorable way, but what kind of this will be evaluated by external experts. So keep that in mind for whatever you put forward in terms of consortium composition, strategy, methodology, etc. It must be very convincing. If you have excellent reasons to put forward why two from the same city actually are proposed, maybe it's convincing, and then it could fly.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question I have on screen here. Second one is about the EU contributions paid by IOs. I think we've answered that one. So maybe Artur, Katarina, or Ralph, you could simply give us a quick idea of how you identify support organizations. That was still in the previous question.
I think we call them simply the business support organizations. That is any chamber of commerce, chamber of crafts. It can be university entrepreneurship departments. It can be institutes of vocational training and education. It can be anything that has SME and entrepreneurship in their core DNA of support services. There is no other definition.
Very good.
If I may on this, because this comes also to the question of the ideal consortium, please go to the criteria, because if you read criteria, you will see what are we looking for. We look for organizations who have access to entrepreneurs and who has some experience in mobility, in cross-border cooperation, entrepreneurship support. So if you go through the criteria, you will see more or less what sort of composition we are looking for and what sort of organizations we would like to see in the projects.
Thank you, both of you. Next question is about Ukrainian new entrepreneurs. So will the rules for them stay the same, in particular with regard to war refugees who are currently staying in the EU? Maybe Ralph, that's one for you.
I'll take that one as well. Okay. Yes, the rules stay the same. They were confirmed in the recent publication of the most recent quality manual, meaning in essence that you can match people from within Ukraine to other SMP countries, or even to the global destinations, or you can match Ukrainian citizens that fled the war zone and are displaced in SMP countries to host entrepreneurs in those countries actually where they currently reside, or even in another SMP country. So there is absolutely no change of role here.
Okay, thank you very much, Ralph, for that. I see there is one more question here on screen about the admissibility of new organizations. I would like to reiterate that the call is open to new organizations. You can become part of a consortium even if you've never taken part in a previous cycle. The only thing you cannot do is be a coordinator. We have also already addressed the ideal number of participating organizations. We're not going to go into that at the moment. And I think we have also now reached a time where we really cannot continue to answer all further questions here in this setting. But rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, time is up now, but we will answer your questions. We will go back to you in writing. We will publish all questions and the related answers on the Funding and Tenders portal on the Q&A section that is available to you already. You can, of course, also provide additional questions by email, and we will reply to them as well. To find the published answers, please go to the Funding Tenders portal, select Single Market Programme, select the Grants box only, and enter the call ID, which is SMP-COSME-2026-I, and then scroll down to the Q&A section. You will find everything there within a short period of time. Now, I think this is the moment for me to ring in the conclusion of this info session, and I would first of all like to extend a very big thank you to the 6 distinguished speakers we've had on our panel today, and who have provided us with so much information that we had to go over half an hour beyond the time that was available. This is also due to the fact that we had so many questions from an interested audience, and we greatly thank you, the audience, as well, for being here, for being interested, for listening, for staying with us for most of the time, and for asking all those really relevant questions. But let me please also thank the technical team and the back office team, without whom we wouldn't have even had a microphone to talk into. I would particularly thank those who came over to my office here to plug my computer into the electricity. Before we go, ladies and gentlemen, let's take this occasion on behalf of everybody on this panel to wish you the best of luck for your application. We hope we've triggered your interest. We hope you are intrigued, interested, and convinced by the usefulness of this project, of this program, I should say. And we're looking forward to reading your proposals. And for the best of your proposals, we're looking forward to working with you. So good luck. But ladies and gentlemen, before you go, we'd love to hear what you thought about this session. So if you don't mind, you've already been with us for so long, if you can take another 1 or 2 minutes to simply complete the short survey that will follow up on your screen just after the end of the meeting, we'd be delighted. Now, on that note, we leave you with the email addresses for your questions, with further resources and web links, as well as our social media hashtags. And we happily release you to your lunch break or whatever you're up to next. Thank you very much once again for your attention. Thank you to the speakers, and goodbye from us.